Hi, I'm Laura D. Pusey, the founder of Dippism, Death in Practice, and this is the channel where we are talking the things on dying, death, life, and grief. Each week I answer a question and I say it as I see it because I've seen a lot. In the last video, I answered the question, will I ever be happy? Now that was controversial. If you have any questions about that video or you want me to answer a question for you, send me an email at deathinpractice@gmail.com. Okay, let us now open the veil of luminescence. With the intention of infinite truths, by the pulse of sacred light, I call forth the veil of luminescence. I anchor this veil in sovereign light to transmute and contain all energetic imprints, attachments, and residues across all realms. The material plane, where grief etches into the body. The emotional plane, where sorrow swells and purges. The mental plane, where stories of loss seek resolution. The astral plane, where echoes of the departed linger. The interdimensional corridors, where ancestral and cosmic threads intertwine. The parallel universes, where grief and grace mirror each other. This veil, woven of remembrance and radiance, is encoded with clarity to discern what is yours and what is not. Containment to protect your field, compassion to honour the sacred work of grief, transmutation to alchemize pain into wisdom. Let this veil shimmer between worlds, holding space for the divinity of each soul, the teachings where presence dissolves suffering, the soul's awakening where death births depth, the healing where grief becomes grace. This veil is not a wall but a sacred membrane, allowing only what aligns with truth, love, and remembrance to pass through. By the breath of the infinite, by the pulse of the sacred, I seal this veil with sovereignty and light. Following on from the last video, will I ever be happy? I'm hit with the question, why can't they see? We see in so many ways, and we are completely blind to a lot of stuff that is going on in our lives and in the world that we live in. However, sometimes we're jolted into awareness, shifted by a death that shatters the picture in our minds of the life that we are living. And this can leave us feeling vulnerable to the elements, or with a sense of clarity that frees us from the bullshit that we have often been juggling for a long ass time. Hey, I'm just reading a script. Are you aware of the dog whistle? It's a type of whistle that emits a high frequency sound. It is ultrasonic, making it inaudible to humans but heard by dogs. It's often used for training. Interestingly, it is also a political metaphor. A political dog whistle has a public speaker using coded language, phrases, or symbols to appeal to a specific group, enabling them to get a message across about often racial, xenophobic, or hateful subjects without causing a wider public backlash. Now, that's interesting, but it's not the focus of today's lecture. It's good to keep it in mind, though, because our attention has now been brought to it, which means that the political dog whistle will have significance in your life in the future. This is how we use our eyes to see. Whether aimed at a dog or at people, both definitions of the dog whistle share the concept of transmitting a message that is intended for a select recipient while remaining undetected or misunderstood by others. There is also a term referred to as double speak. Coming to think of it, that's political too. It's often attributed incorrectly to George Orwell's novel 1984, but it is basically the art of saying one thing but meaning something entirely different by using obscure or ambiguous language. Real eyes, realize, real lies. This lecture is literally displaying what is being said on the tin, whilst my intention is to speak of a gift of grief. You can interpret everything I am saying here in so many different ways. Am I having a dig at polytrickers, or am I staying in my lane and speaking of an aspect of grief? It really is for you to decide. So, what is the gift? I hear you cry from the rafters. It's sight. More importantly, the kind of sight that brings clarity. Although it often doesn't feel like a gift when you start to see through new eyes that which you may have previously been shielded from or simply didn't want to see, that now can suddenly present itself up close and personal. It may be challenging a new self out of you, thus further shaping your identity and bringing a new angle to your previously held story. Because of our relationship with the person who died, we may not have had access to the full picture of our own lives or the dynamics that perhaps have played out without our knowledge. Maybe things have happened in the past that we were protected against or kept in the dark about because of our age or another sensitivity that would have triggered a bigger scenario. Yes, to keep control of a situation. We can then find ourselves realizing, oh, that's why she said that, or why he is always like that toward so-and-so, or just so strange around me, or never accepted me, or like that with so-and-so. Past, present, and future. Nothing is hidden if you have the eyes to see and the ears to hear. Now, you may struggle to see this gift of grief at first, especially if you are left blindsided by a new truth that has rocked your vision or your idea of stability. Dynamics from the past often shape our relationships and decision-making abilities. Just like how a dog whistle can be used or words emitted to keep us contained in the same room and so far away from the truth. I explained agency in videos 14 and 15. Agency is a person's capacity and right to make informed, voluntary choices and to act on them. If you've not been privy to the full story, your right to make informed decisions has been taken away from you, sometimes for better and sometimes for worse. One thing that I like about hailing from Jamaica is that they tell you everything you need to know. You might not hear it, you might not understand it, because our elders are experts in metaphor and euphemism, which is a mild, indirect, or polite word or expression used as a substitute for words that are considered too harsh, blunt, unpleasant, or offensive. In the past, we relied on euphemism, metaphor, and proverbs as tools of survival, resistance, and cultural continuity, whilst under the constant surveillance of the enslavers. Regardless of where we hail from, double speak, which can also be spoken through the eyes, became the language of the black man. And we continue to use it today because the ability to speak freely still remains a double-edged sword that we constantly find ourselves on the wrong side of. I swear this lecture is going to get me into trouble one day as people interpret my words in their own ways, but I can't control how it is received. I am simply reading a script that has been channeled to me, and I am not afraid to pass on the information that my ancestors deem necessary for me to share at this time in their own way, for whatever future reason. I personally am actually at a point in my life where I am neutral to it all. I'm actually tired of the pontification, the argument, and the bag-along talking because it's all a distraction from our origin, our authenticity, our ability, and forward movement out of Babylon. In Europe, euphemisms are also used to soften difficult topics like death, sex, firing, or bodily functions, or to avoid embarrassment. For example, when someone has died, we will say that they passed away. Think about it though. What does that actually and literally mean, to pass away? It actually makes no sense. They're dead. They died. But the language is seen as too abrupt. If someone passes away, it's more ethereal. I don't like the term passed away any more than I like to speak of a dead person as being lost. They're dead. If you lose your keys, you can find them and continue to use them. When someone is dead, their story is finished, and the body they used to experience life is to be disposed of. Okay, so getting back to the original question, why can't they see? It often takes the death of a loved one to enable you to see the actions of those around you. Upon seeing people for who they really are, you may actually realize that you don't actually like them. Maybe you never have. And that can cause issues around arrangements, money matters, and the ceremonies that follow a death. I had a client once that I urged to take a step back and watch the performance of the funeral unfold. I knew that this particular funeral was a potentially dangerous place for them, and my client had to be in the right headspace to navigate the day whilst laying the body of their loved one to rest. More and more of our funerals are becoming fractious due to the lies, secrets, hidden resentments, and learned behaviours that have been passed along the bloodline time and time again. They're actually coming up for healing, and they will continue to come up until someone confronts these truths and does the spiritual work of removing the darker, negative, lower energies or entities from the bloodline. I've said in many of the past lectures that a lot is going on inside and outside of the body that we are seldom aware of. There are times too that our ancestors our spirit or our intuition will draw our attention to something seemingly innocent, you might cast it off in the moment. But as time goes on, you are led to see and perhaps go on to appreciate the significance. Oftentimes, this is the task of the black sheep. What is it they say? God works in mysterious ways. If your eyes have been opened, it can change your whole world view, and it can take time to understand or unpick the new information. It can drive you mad as you now knowingly look at the glaringly obvious clues that were right in front of you all this time, and the decisions that you made whilst you were unknowingly in the dark. You may feel like the warlord bounty killer, cross, angry, miserable. Or you may feel deceived, angry, manipulated and used. Perhaps you are the only one who sees the bigger picture, and now you find yourself in a position that you feel you have to do or say something. Now, whilst I am a fan of those who can speak their minds, you can't make an omelette without smashing the shells and totally destroying some eggs. It's alchemy, and life is a performance, my friend. But everything we do adds to a script. So before you make your next move, please consider all of the possible scenarios that can erupt from your next action. As passionate and highly reactive people, we can often act before we think, fly off the handle, and create a shitstorm from our emotions. Beware that when inflamed, we can give others the stick to beat us with for the rest of our lives. Not only can it affect your future, trust me, it will also affect the way that your children are treated. None of us need to appear on the front page of the Daily Mail. As the boy in the corner, our Saint Dizzy Rascal would say, fix up, look sharp, because not all skin folk are kinfolk. When you have the eyes to see what is going on around you, the best thing you can do is move in silence, clock the moves of others, and formulate your plan. Remember, the truth will come out. It always does. Just put yourself in a place of safety so that when it hits the fan, you don't get the splashback. The light you now see is yours. That is perhaps why others can't see it. Maybe they are simply not meant to, and you may only need to know of it to inform your next or future steps. Sometimes even sharing what you know with trusted allies can be dubious, because what matters to you may not carry the same value for them. So you never know how anyone will carry the information that you give them to hold. This can easily become a life and death situation. And as a priest once said to a dancehall queen, "Wa can live, ta can dead." Okay, let's end it there. Remember, I tell you as I see it, because I've seen a lot. These are my thoughts. Please do your own research and form your own conclusions. The workbooks Tapestries of Grief and My Life's Tapestry are available on Amazon, and the basic Dippism End of Life course that helps you to assist those at the end of life, and the Dippism Cultural Awareness course that helps you to assist those who are grieving are now both available online. If someone you know needs to see this video or would benefit from end of life or grief services, don't be a donkey. Just share the video. And just to clear it up, in the last video I was meant to say don't be a narnie, That's Australian slang for a banana, in case you were wondering. Just share the video, all right? All my links are in the description box below. And now, let us close the veil of luminescence. By the breath of the infinite, by the pulse of the sacred, I honour the veil of luminescence now fulfilled. This veil, once summoned to transmute and contain, has held the field with clarity, compassion, and sovereign light. As the teachings settle and the soul integrates, I call forth the sacred closure of this veil across all realms. On the mental plane, let the body rest in renewal. On the emotional plane, let sorrow soften into spaciousness. On the mental plane, let stories find stillness. On the astral plane, let echoes return to source. Through interdimensional corridors, let threads untangle. Across spheres and planetary systems, allow contracts to be honoured and released. Let all residues now return to their rightful place, dissolved, dispersed, or transmuted by sovereign light. Let the veil fold inward, encoded with discernment to preserve what is true, containment to seal what is sacred, compassion to cradle what remains tender, and wisdom to carry forth what has been alchemized. This veil is reabsorbed into the soul's archive, a luminous record of presence, grief, and transformation. By the breath of the infinite, by the pulse of the sacred, I seal this veil with sovereignty and light.